So you're moving to the Quad Cities, but just how big are the Quad Cities? That's probably a question that you're asking yourself. Well, luckily today we're going to answer that question. We're going to start at the lowest populated areas and move on up to the biggest one, but that's going to be at the end of the video. So if you're curious what that is, gonna have to stick around to the end of the video, and if you know what it is, comment down below what you think that might be. Now we're gonna start at the low end of the population, and just so you know, this is not an exhaustive list of every little town around the Quad Cities. It's just the ones that I would consider still the Quad Cities metro. So there may be some debate on what counts as the Quad Cities or not, but I'm gonna start out with the small towns around, and the lowest position as actually a tie between Bluegrass and Port Byron. I'm going to talk about Bluegrass first. In Bluegrass, you're sitting at about 1,600 people, rounded off, and that is a very typical small town in Iowa. If you go over to Bluegrass, you have the Corner Grill, you have the little tiny supermarket there, and you have the drive-in movie theater, which I absolutely love. They have 4 screens that you can go around and watch that drive-in movie theater. It is a great facility. So 1,500 people over there in Bluegrass, and Bluegrass as a city is a little bit spread out. You have some developments that are just right outside of the main area of Bluegrass, and they have a lot of really cool homes over there. If you're moving over there, you can get bigger lot sizes depending on where you want to be. But yeah, 1,500 people over there in Bluegrass. It is a great small town that is close to the Quad Cities. That may be a cool option for you. And in the second place, or tie really, is Port Byron, Illinois. Now, Port Byron, Illinois sits at about 1,600 people, but it has a completely different vibe compared to Bluegrass, even though the populations are very similar, because Port Byron actually sits right on the river, and you get that good river town feel when you're over there. You've got historical homes. If you move up into the hills, you got the newer builds up there, and the downtown area is actually pretty cool for being such a small town. They have a giant statue of a man riding this bicycle. Highly recommend taking a look at that. But when you get over there, you get a lot of variety on the types of homes that you could possibly get over there. So 2 small towns, they kind of come in a tie for population, but completely different vibes when it comes to the culture that is in those small towns. Now, next up on the list as far as population goes is Coal Valley. Coal Valley sits at about 3,800 people for the population. And talk about a really cool and unique town over there. The thing I really like about Coal Valley is that it's kind of a town that's completely spread out into little pieces everywhere. They have a lot of developments out away from the main town, and it's cool to see that. And the developments that they have are very, very nice. I actually just showed a client one of the homes that are over there, and it's a really cool big lot, really nicely built home, and it had multiple offers on it already, and that just goes to show that Coal Valley is a popular place to be, even though it still is that small town. The other cool thing I like about Coal Valley is its proximity to the Quad Cities. It's right over there by the airport, but you don't really hear a lot of the airplanes going in and out, but it's so easy access to I-74, and you can get into the larger cities that are the main hub of what the Quad Cities are. So it's cool to have that, but also have that small town vibe as well. And next up on our list is actually the city of LeClaire, Iowa, sitting at about 4,800 people. LeClaire, Iowa is such a neat town. It's at river town, very similar to Port Byron, but it has just a little bit more going for it as far as like the feel and the nostalgic of the town. It is somewhat famous as well because of the American Pickers, which is a History Channel TV show that has made LeClaire a place to be. LeClaire itself is dynamic in the same way that Port Byron is, where you have the historical homes, but you also have the new builds if the further away you get from the river. So you got that cool duality going on over there, and it's still technically a small town. The thing I'll say about LeClaire's population is on the rise. 4,800 people now. It's probably going to have a whole lot more here in the near future because a lot of people are heading on over to LeClaire. So yes, that's what it is currently, but expect it to really grow in probably the next decade or so. Now you're probably noticing that as I'm going through these populations that there is a lot of choices when it comes to towns and cities that you could possibly live in the Quad Cities. And if you're making the move here, you do not want to make the wrong choice. And that's why I'm here. I am a licensed realtor here in the Quad Cities, and I know every nook and cranny of the entire Quad Cities, and I love to help find that perfect location for you and your family. So if you're moving here, give me a call. My number is popping up down below. I am the one that answers all those phone calls, texts, and emails. I'd love to help you out. All right, next on our list, we're headed on back to Illinois, and we are going over to the town of MILAN. Yes, it's pronounced MILAN, not Milan.
What?
If you're moving here and you pronounce it Milan, people are gonna know that you're not from around here. So if you're moving here, just know. But as far as the population goes, we're sitting at about 5,000 people that live over there. The cool thing about MILAN is it's basically attached to Rock Island, and you can get into town extremely quickly. But even if you don't want to come into town, MILAN has about everything that you need over there. They have the Hy-Vee, they have Pizza Hut, they have gas stations, they even have meatheads, which I love. I covered them in a different video, but let's pop up some B-roll of what that looks like because it's one of my favorite places to shop. They have brats out the yin yang that you could have, and they have so many different flavors, so highly recommend checking them out if you're going to go over to MILAN. And if you're going to move there, go to meatheads all the time because I'd be a little jealous because I love going over there. But MILAN, again, is a great option, sitting at about 5,000 people, easy access to the Quad Cities, but you don't necessarily have to drive into the Quad Cities to get everything that you might need because they have just about everything you might need right there. Now we are hopping right back across the river up to Eldridge, Iowa. And Eldridge is sitting at about 6,700 people. And the thing about Eldridge that I tell people when they're moving here is Eldridge is kind of that awkward teenage stage as far as where they're at in development. They are really starting to grow, but they're not quite there as far as some of the infrastructure, but it's gonna be really, really good, and people are moving up there in droves. For example, I sold a home up there, brand new build. My clients moved in, and then I found out they didn't have internet service. It got taken care of very quickly, but that's just one example of kind of that awkward teenage phase because they're growing up very fast. They were such a small town for so long, but now they're moving on up, and the population is starting to really expand very quickly, and people really, really want to be up there. So if that's you, you may want to look at Eldridge as an option because they're growing constantly and they have just about everything you need just north of the Quad City central area. Okay, I don't know how this keeps happening, but we are gonna hop back over the river and go to SILVIS, Illinois. SILVIS, Illinois is sitting at a population of about 7,800 people, and it is a wonderful city to be in. You know, they have TPC Deer Run, and if you're not familiar with that, that is a golf course that holds the John Deere Classic, which is a professional golfing outing that tons of people come to, all the professional players come to, and that kind of exemplifies what SILVIS is all about. In fact, their water tower is literally a golf ball on top of a tee, so you know they're all about the golfing over there. The thing about SILVIS is it feels a little bit cut off from the main Quad Cities. It's kind of out in the corner by itself, and when you get over there, some people really, really like that. You know, it is a little bit out of the way for some people, but they really enjoy it. So if you're moving here, look at SILVIS as an option. The homes are really beautiful over there. They're all about the golf, and it may be a great option for you. Now on our next one, we are seeing a major jump in population. And you're going to notice that with the next cities that we're talking about, because these are going to be the more main core of the Quad Cities and not just the little towns dotted around the outside. So what is this city that I'm going to be talking about? Well, that is East Moline. And East Moline is sitting at about 21,000 population, and it's just a little bit north of SILVIS and closer to the river. But what does East Moline really have to offer for somebody moving there? Well, they have entertainment. They have the Rust Belt, which is a great music venue right on the river, and everything has built up around it. They have breweries, they have hotels, they have a lot of stuff going on right there. And they also have their downtown area that people like to go and shop at. I personally like to go to the grocery store that is down there because it has a lot of unique things that I can't really find anywhere else. So it has a lot going for it, and a lot of people enjoy it over there. But again, sort of like SILVIS, it's kind of off on its own as far as the Quad Cities. You know, it is 21,000 population, but it's just kind of off in the corner that, you know, a lot of people find as a good thing if they are living here. But just know that it is over there where you may not have as easy access to the main hub of what the Quad Cities is. Now, we are only 4 cities away from the big kahuna, the biggest city out there. And if you know what that city is, comment it down below, because I'm curious if people know what that city is. But for now, we're gonna talk about Rock Island. Rock Island is the smallest of the 4 major Quad Cities, sitting at about 36,000 people. It is on the Mississippi. It has really cool historical homes. You drive up the Broadway, you can see some of these really cool historical homes. And they also have one of the main hospitals in the Quad Cities. That is Unity Point, basically smack dab in the middle of Rock Island. So that is really cool to see. And then as far as entertainment goes, they have the district, which is kind of going under a restoration process right now. They are trying to really amp it up and make it super nice for businesses to be down there. But they also have that riverfront, which is a great place for the park that is down there. I believe it's called Schrebert Park. They have a big atrium, concerts go on. I've been down there for charity events, so it's a cool little area down by the river that a lot of people like to be at. So Rock Island may be a good choice for you. The homes in Rock Island in general are going to be on the more affordable side, depending on what your price point is. It may be a good option as far as affordability goes, but again, that is very neighborhood dependent because they have some beautiful big mansion homes as well. So you got to find where that point is for you and your family. So if you're looking at Rock Island, just know you have a wide range of possibilities there. Now, these next 2 are kind of interesting to me because it's a little bit of a battle when it comes to the population. And coming in at 3rd place for population is actually Bettendorf, Iowa. They're sitting at about 40,000 people and is actually where I am currently, right on the river. The thing about Bettendorf is it's one of the fastest growing cities that are one of the main hubs of the Quad Cities. So that 40,000 is expected to go up fairly quickly. But what can you really get in Bettendorf? Well, the things you can get in Bettendorf is a lot of new developments. We have our downtown area. The I-74 bridge, that was the main driver of that, because once they built that new I-74 bridge, Bettendorf is like, hey, we want our downtown to be a place that people really want to be, so let's really amp it up. So they've built the place called the Bridges, which is apartment complexes and businesses in the bottom. They have another building that is the TPK Bank. Again, business on top and businesses in the bottom. They have Yoso Sushi, which is a great restaurant. They have Verde down there and a whole bunch more with many plans to really amp it up. But not only are they revitalizing the areas that have been around forever, they're also building brand new, which is the Betplex area. Everything is getting built up over there. The Betplex was the starter, which is a sports complex. They have baseball, soccer, volleyball, arcades, they have everything there, but they have hotels getting built up. They have the Iron T, which is a Topgolf type facility. So a lot of things are getting built up around Bettendorf, and it's cool to see that. But the competition is really heating up between Bettendorf and our next city, which I'm going to talk about now. And that next city is Moline, Illinois, sitting at about 42,000 people. So just 2,000 people difference, and that competition is heating up because Moline has always been just a little bit bigger than Bettendorf, but Bettendorf is catching up super fast. So what does Moline really have to offer for somebody that's moving here? Well, Moline has the vibrant arena, which is one of the main entertainment hubs of the entire Quad Cities. It has all the biggest concerts there. It has all the biggest events like rodeo or monster truck rallies. And they also host the Steam Wheelers and the Quad City Storm, which is the local hockey team. So they have all of that going on, but that's just the downtown area. They also have a ton of stuff going on along John Deere Road. That is all your main shopping that you must be going to, as far as like the Walmarts and the Targets and anything else in between. And then along the Avenue of the Cities, which is another main driver of the Moline area, they have a ton more shopping. And then as far as recreation goes, you have Ben Butterworth Parkway, which is along the river, the bike trail along the river, and Sylvan Island, which is another great mountain biking / fat tire bike area that people really like to go to. So Moline has a lot going on for it that people really enjoy and really get behind when it comes to Moline. All right, so drum roll, please. We have made it to our biggest city, and if you guess Davenport, you would be 100% correct. If you've done any kind of research, you probably already knew that, but Davenport sits at just a little above 100,000 people. It's a huge jump compared to the next two smallest, which I just talked about, Bettendorf and Moline. So it is the main economic hub of the Quad Cities, again, sitting at about a little more than 100,000 people. So what does Davenport really have to offer? Well, the thing about Davenport is it offers many different lifestyles. You have the potential for city living, which is the downtown area. You have suburban living, which is the majority of Davenport. And then you also have potential for some rural living. Yes, a part of Davenport is somewhat unincorporated. They have farmland within the city limits, which I find kind of cool and interesting. And it also shows that the potential for growth is there. I got a train coming. Well, that was unexpected, but sometimes you gotta deal with the trains here as well. And we were talking about Davenport, Iowa. So we got the three different lifestyles. You got that city, you got the suburban, you got the rural, but what does that really get you? Well, the city life, you have some somewhat high-rise apartments in downtown. You have a lot of entertainment down there. I love going to the farmers market, which is in downtown Davenport as well. And then you got the River Bandits down there, which, if you're not familiar, they are our minor league baseball team. So we got a lot of stuff going on down there, as well as events that happen throughout the year. We have the Big 7, which is a 7-mile race. We have the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is a bi-state parade that starts in Rock Island and goes into Davenport. So it's cool to see all of that going on in downtown. And then you have the suburban areas where we have a ton of parks, like the Vanderveer Park, one of my favorite parks to go to. I've made videos there before. Highly recommend that as an option. And then again, the rural areas, which is just outside of the town, which some people really want to get a big area like acreages. So you have that option as well. So Davenport really does have it all for anybody that's moving here. But the thing about Davenport, it is larger than the rest of the Quad Cities, and there are so many different neighborhoods. So if you're moving here and you're like, I need to know the perfect place for me and my family, you're gonna wanna give me a call, send me a text. My number is popping up down below. I'll talk to you and figure out the perfect location for you and your family. But if you want to see what Davenport actually looks like, well, check out this Davenport vlog right here.